Mr. Herbert is trying to persuade Sergeant Major Morris to narrate the story of Indian magic yet again. And he says, all a fake, Governor. That fucker is a fake. Herbert says this because he wants Sergeant Morris to narrate the story once again. Sergeant, fake? Are you calling my story fake? I tell you, I have seen it with my own eyes. How dare you call it fake? It's not fake. Herbert, pushing his father with his foot, nudging his father with his foot, says, oh, come on now. Suggest what? Come. Herbert, persuading Sergeant Major Morris to narrate the story again, tells, oh, come now. Suggest what? Come. Please, will you tell me the story once again? Oh, what is that? Sergeant, I have seen a cow with no more clothes on than a baby. Now the sergeant begins the story again by saying that I have seen a cow is a man, with no more clothes on than a baby. I have seen a person, I have seen a fellow who is completely naked. Then he looks at Mrs. White and tells her, see if you know what I mean, take an empty basket, empty mind you. You take an empty basket. The man was as empty as a basket. That means the man was completely naked and as empty as this glass here. He shows his empty glass to Mrs. White and tells him the man was as empty as this glass. So he compares a man to an empty basket and an empty glass as well. Sergeant says, I have seen a man with no more clothes on than a baby. If you know what I mean, take an empty basket. Empty, I'll tell you, an empty basket. The man was completely naked as this basket is empty. Or I can give you one more example. Look at my glass of wine that is empty and the man was naked, completely naked as this glass is completely empty. Mr. White, oh, hand it over, Mr. Morris. So Mr. White, realizing that his glass is empty, asks him to give it to him so that it may be filled again. He hands it to Herbert, who goes quickly behind the table and fills a glass with wine. Sergeant, which was not my intention. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that my glass should be filled again, but I used for just illustration. I just gave you an example. I just gave a comparison. Herbert, he's mixing the drink and he says, I have seen the basket trick and I have read how it was done. Why? I could do it myself if I want it with a bit of practice. So if I practice a little bit, I can also do the same magic. Not a great thing. I won't believe you tell me it is something fantastic, something incredible, because I know how it is done. If I try my best, I can also do that. Ladle out something stronger. Ladle out here, give us something stronger. Mr. Morris, if you want us to believe what you're saying, tell us something which is stronger than the magic. Herbert brings in the glass. Sergeant doesn't like it. He says, stronger? You want something stronger? What do you say to an old fakir chucking a rope up in the air, mind you? Are you trying to tell me it is not a real magic? Okay, I'll tell you something else. Forget about the basket trick. There is another magic. What do you say to that magic in which there is an old fakir? He chucks up a rope up in the air, throws up a rope in the air, mind you, and swarming up it. He throws up a rope and then slowly starts climbing along it as if it is hooked on, as if it is connected to something on the top and vanishing clean out of sight. So I have seen with my own eyes a fakir throwing up a rope up in the air, then climbing up along it, then vanishing out of sight. What do you think of this magic? Now, what do you say? Do you say that you can also do that? Herbert goes to table, plunges a knife into a bun, and offers it to Sergeant with exaggerated politeness, pretended politeness. Herbert goes to table, then plunges a knife into it, cuts a bun, and offers it to the sergeant with so much of artificial, exaggerated politeness, courtesy. Sergeant looking at the piece of bun with disgust because he doesn't like bun, and he says, "Bun? You're giving me bun? What for? I don't need that." Herbert, "Oh, your story takes it. The yarn takes it. Your yarn demands it. Giving you the bun because that suits your story." Mr. and Mrs. White feel happy hearing this joke and they feel delighted. Sergeant, mean to say that you doubt my word? Are you trying to tell me you don't believe what I am saying? Mrs. White, oh no, no, he's only taking off. You shouldn't, Herbert. Now, Mrs. White supports the son by saying that, look, my son is just encouraging you to tell the story. He's only taking you off. He is really helping you to start narrating the story. Then she turns to Herbert and tells him, come on, you can't pull the legs of Sergeant Morris. No, shouldn't do that. Mr. White also supports his son by saying that Herbert is like that. Herbert enjoys his time. Herbert likes to have fun. That's why he's saying that. Herbert puts the bun back because Sergeant Morris doesn't take it, comes round in front and moving the chair out of the way, sits cross-legged on the floor at his father's side. So after keeping the bun back on the dining table, Herbert comes and sits on the floor. He squats on the floor, cross-legged at his father's side. Sergeant looks at Herbert and tells him, oh, don't say it is untrue. What I am telling you is not a lie. It is not something concocted. It is true. But it is true. My story is true. Why, if I choose, I could tell you things, but there you don't get no more yarns out of me. So if I want to tell you lies, I could tell you thousands of stories like that, which are not true. You're trying to put me off by saying that my stories are not true. Don't do that. I have told you real stories. Today, I'm really angry with you. I'm really offended. I'm really feeling hurt. So, today, you won't get any more story from me. I'm not going to open my mouth. I won't tell you any story. Mr. White tells Sergeant Morris, nonsense, old friend. Oh, my dear friend, don't take it seriously. My son just had some fun with you. He just said it humorously. Don't take it very seriously. Oh, nonsense, old friend. He puts down his glass. You're not going to get shirty about a bit of fun. My son tried to have some fun. Don't be fussy about it. Shirty here, fussy. Don't take it very seriously. You're not going to get shirty, fussy about a bit of fun. My son tried to have some fun with you. Why should you take it seriously? Oh, please ignore that. He moves his chair near Morris's chair. What was that you started telling me the other day about a monkey's paw or something? Mr. White changes the topic now and tells Mr. Rajan, the other day you spoke about a monkey's paw. Will you please repeat that story? I don't remember the details. Now, will you tell me that again? Or monkey's paw or something? He nudges Herbert and winks at Mrs. White. He just pushes Mr. Herbert and winks at Mrs. White, knowing fully well that the story is going to come out from the mouth of Mr. Morris. Sergeant, gravely, very seriously. Oh, nothing. Lee's way is nothing worth hearing. Sergeant continues to be in a bad mood. And he says, oh, there is nothing serious. It is nothing serious. I don't want to tell you the story. It is not worth hearing. Mrs. White, with astonished curiosity, Mrs. White, feeling highly curious, she asked him, what monkey's paw? Mr. White, yes, you were telling me something about monkey's paw? Now Sergeant feels encouraged, but he says, it is nothing serious. Don't go on about it. Puts his empty glass to his lips and then stares at it. Sergeant says, "Oh, come on, nothing serious. It is not worth your hearing. It is not something worth hearing. Forget about it. That don't go on about it. Don't ask me to narrate the story again and again. I don't like to tell you the story, the same story." He puts his empty glass to his lips again, then looks at it, stares at it. Now he realizes that again the glass has become empty. What? Empty again? There, when I begin thinking of the paw, it makes me absent minded. Now he says, "Oh, my glass has gone empty once again. Whenever I think about the monkey's paw, I become absent minded. I become absent minded." Mr. White gets up and fills his glass. "You said you always carried it on you." Mr. White is asking him, "Are you carrying it on you? You always tell me you carry it wherever you go. Do you have it with you now?" Sergeant, "Yes, so I do. Yes, I carry it wherever I go because I'm scared of what might happen. Because of the fear of what is going to happen, I carry it wherever I go." Then sunk in thought, lost in thought, he said, "Hey, come on now, forget." Mr. White handed him a glass that is filled again. "There, please have it." He sits again in the same chair. Mrs. White, "What is it for?" Sergeant, "You wouldn't believe me if I were to tell you." "Oh, I can tell you, but I don't think you'll believe me." Herbert says, "Oh, definitely, I will believe every word of yours. We won't disbelieve you. Please tell me. Please tell us a story." Sergeant, "Magic then. Don't you laugh? It's again magic, okay? Just like the basket trick. This is another magic. Don't laugh. I'll tell you." "I'm not laughing at you. Got it on you now? Have you got the monkey's paw with you?" "Of course," Sergeant says. Herbert, "Let me see it." Seeing the sergeant embarrassed with his glass, Sergeant is feeling embarrassed, uncomfortable with his glass. Mrs. White gets up, takes it from him, places it on his shelf mantelpiece, and remains standing there. So the glass is taken away from the hand of Mr. Morris. Sergeant, "Oh, it is nothing to look at. Oh, nothing important to look at. It is nothing to look at. It's not such a beautiful thing to be looked at." Hunting in his pocket, fumbling in his pocket for that, it is just an ordinary paw. Paw is, a claw of an animal. A little paw, dried to a mummy. It is completely dried. It's a real paw of a monkey. It's a real paw, but now it is completely dried up as a mummy. Produces it and holds it towards Mrs. White. Here, he takes it out of his pocket and gives it to Mrs. White. Mrs. White, who has leaned forward eagerly to see it, starts back with a cry of disgust. "Oh," she says. She had moved forward to see it, but when he shows it, she gets frightened and withdraws herself. She goes back and she says, "Ah, what's that?" Herbert, "Give us a look. Oh, let me have a look at it." Morris passes a paw to Mr. White, from whom Herbert takes it. "Why, it's all dried up." Herbert says, "Yeah, it's completely dry." Sergeant, "Yes, I said it is dried." Wind is blowing. Mrs. White, with a slight shudder, "Oh, listen to the wind," sits again in her old place. So Mrs. White, soon after, Mrs. White has a look at the paw. The wind starts blowing. She gets frightened. She asks her husband, child, and the guest to listen to the sound of the wind, and she sits again in her old place. Mr. White taking the paw from Herbert. "And what might there be special about it? Just tell me, Morris, what is so specially unique about this paw?" Sergeant feels impressed, inspired, and he says that their paw has had a spell put upon that. It is not an ordinary monkey's paw. This is a magical paw because it has got a spell. It has got a spell put on it. So it has got magical power. It has got divine power. Nobody knows what it is capable of. Mr. White can't believe what he hears. He gets frightened in great alarm. He just throws the paw back into Morris's hand because he gets frightened to hear that it has got a spell cast on that.